Hey everybody, welcome back to Buck Denver. I have something cool to show you. It's not been sided yet, but I've been building this in some free time that I've had. And let me open it up for you and show you what I got going on inside. I've got chickens. So we're pretty excited about that here at the Pretty Household. Those should be producing eggs sometime in the middle of summer. Still gonna put some siding on it to make it look a little nicer, but I'm very, very excited to have some chickens. Right now, we've been studying in our Buck Denver series, the prophets. We've been doing that for 2 weeks now. This week, we're gonna be talking about the major prophets. There are 4 guys who are called the major prophets: Isaiah, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, and Daniel. Now, if you know your books of the Bible in order, you know right in between those first 2 and the second 2, there's an extra book. Do you know what it is? After Isaiah, Jeremiah, blank, Ezekiel, Daniel. If you know your books of the Bible, you know that that is Lamentations. Lamentations isn't a prophecy, but it's instead a book written by one of those prophets. The prophet Jeremiah wrote that. Now, let me tell you real quick why they're called the major prophets. They aren't called the major prophets because they're better than the other prophets or because they were some kind of big deal. They're called the major prophets because, get this, they wrote really big books. So if you look through your prophet books, through your prophecies, Isaiah, Jeremiah, Lamentations, Ezekiel, Daniel, Hosea, Joel, Amos, Obadiah, Jonah, Micah, Nahum, Habakkuk, Zephaniah, Haggai, Zechariah, Malachi, you'll see that 4 of those are really big books, and the rest are all pretty small, and plus Lamentations is big. So that's the only difference between the 2, the major and the minor prophets. So of the major prophets, like I said, there's Lamentations in the middle, and that is a book written by Jeremiah. See, here's the deal. Isaiah was called on by God, and he was told, I want you to preach to a people who aren't going to listen. And God wasn't wrong. They didn't listen. And then Jeremiah comes along and he's preaching to those same people. And not only do they not listen, they really get angry with him for saying that God was going to judge Israel. And so he becomes called the weeping prophet. And he was so sad, he wrote the book of Lamentations to lament all that had gone wrong for Israel. And then, of course, then you have Ezekiel, and Ezekiel talked a lot about the future. He talked about seeing the end of the world as God was going to destroy it and all the good that God would do in the future as well. And then, of course, there's the prophet Daniel. And Daniel writes his book from being captive in Babylon. And you know the stories from that. Daniel in the lion's den. Daniel, his friends Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. All those stories that come with that. So here's the deal. Here's what I want you to think about with the prophets, with these major prophets. They're all given messages from God, messages to tell the people to stop sinning, to worship the Lord alone. And sometimes people listen to them a little bit. Sometimes just a little bit for a short time or whatever. People would listen, and then they would stop listening. And then somebody would come along and preach more, and some people would listen, and they'd stop listening. Here's the deal. Until God sent his Messiah, it would never, ever change that cycle. That cycle had been there through, remember, all the way back when Moses was leading the people. They'd listen to him for a while, all excited. And then they'd say, what about water? What about this? What about the enemy? What about this? We want to go back to Egypt. Then in Judges, the same kind of cycle goes on. That cycle can't be broken until God sends his son to die for our sins. When that happens, all of a sudden the Spirit of God can come and live inside of us. And he can change our behavior and help us to live a full life dedicated to him. Not just follow him for a short time and then go our own way. God needed to send his son. What an awesome opportunity that this video is coming out just in time for Good Friday. Good Friday is when we celebrate and remember that Jesus died for us. And then, of course, Easter will be this Sunday. Make sure you check out the Buck Denver videos coming out this week. And until next time, have a wonderful, wonderful week. God bless.